And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The former president of the Grand Trunk Railway and founder, Prince Rupert, had a grand vision of making the city a part of a global trading network and a pivotal gateway to Canada. Charles Hayes died in the sinking of the Titanic in April 1912, and with it, his vision of the city. On today's Open Connection, we're going to open our archives to bring you this story from 2001.
It was just this past July that it was announced that the Prince Rupert Library, with the financial assistance of Canadian National Railways and BC Hydro, was able to recover a part of the city's history and the dreams that Charles Hayes once had for it. Drawn by famous BC architect Francis Rattenbury, well known for designing the provincial legislature and the Empress Hotel in Victoria, the library had purchased the plans for a hotel that Hayes wanted to build as a terminus for the Grand Trunk Pacific Railway. The collection is made up of a lot of different items, ranging from full-fledged technical drawings to sketches on cocktail napkins. When the plans were finally put on public display at the Performing Arts Centre, Chief Librarian Alan Wilson agreed to give us a brief tour.
So this is what you would have seen from the city side. And as you can see, there's a large copper statue of Rattenbury to get an idea, of Prince Rupert. To get an idea of the scale, this is about 12 feet high. And so you're looking at a building that is about 14 stories high. And as I say, this is the city entrance elevation of the Prince Rupert.
Okay, so there's some other views of what it would have looked like from other entrances. Can you explain them to us?
Well, as we progress next to the next set, this is what you would have seen from 2nd Avenue in Prince Rupert. And again, you've got this magnificent entrance with Prince Rupert carved in stone and a bronze statue, as opposed to the copper statue that we saw before, of Prince Rupert in the main entrance. And here you have all the fancy little attachments and cornices and gargoyles and lighting and a balcony and the parapet, much as what you'd see in the Empress or the Chateau Laurier. And then as we progress to the third drawing, as you can imagine, Rattenbury's buildings always commanded absolutely magnificent surroundings. He's one of the great landscape architects in many ways. The way he situates his buildings, like the Empress, like the Parliament buildings. And here is what you would have seen if you were coming into the harbor. So this is the elevation facing the harbor, and as you can imagine, this is up on a cliff overlooking it. It's part of a very, very large design that included a park, a customs house, a post office, so really a complex, but the main part being this centerpiece, Grand Trunk Pacific Hotel.
The plans are quite impressive, and by looking at them you can tell that Rattenbury was quite thorough and specific about what he wanted, where it was to go, and what materials were to be used. The level of detail is just amazing and could in fact be considered as artwork.
This is, again from the drawings, an incredible level of detail. As he's looking at this is the main exterior up on the top of the parapets. So you're looking at a roof that is copper dormers and slate roof, but look at the level of detail as you're looking at these statues atop the Grand Trunk Pacific Hotel. He's shaded in and drawn beautifully these kind of sirens. You've got griffins down here that would have been up there, and all these small details and gargoyles and heads poking out, and again the griffin lying here. And you can see the tremendous detail that and care that he's taking as he draws these cornices. This is basically all the fancy work, and he's really demonstrating the tremendous art that Rattenbury brought to these types of drawings.
The whole collection is very impressive, but probably one of the most stirring pieces is a conceptual drawing that shows what Prince Rupert's waterfront could have looked like.
This is actually the complete vista. As you look down on the waterfront, there's a commanding view here where the hotel actually sits on the side of a cliff, roughly where Bill Murray Way is. The end of this would have been where present Skeena Broadcasters is. A large hotel. The buildings either side were for the future development of a customs house and a post office. And of course this park moving in and out with its own landscaping. There's a Porte Cochere here, a welcoming center, and right along the waterfront, novel for its day, a great innovation, is the fact that you had a steamship terminal and the train terminal melded in together, all showing off the Grand Trunk Pacific Railway. And so, of course, this would have been a transportation hub. As people came into Prince Rupert, they could be serviced by rail or by water, or stay in what would have been one of the most elegant hotels in Canada.
The acquisition of the Rattenbury plans has more benefits than just historical. Wilson is hoping the addition of them to the library's collection will help in its efforts to raise funding to build a new facility for itself and the city's archives.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thanks for staying with us. Arsenic is an element that occurs naturally in the environment. It has a number of industrial uses. Arsenic can enter the food supply through water, soil, and air, and is found at low levels in many types of foods. Let us return to the archives with Josette Weir.
The label looks ominous. Glow-On is a brand name for the pesticide MSMA, used in areas where other beetle control methods, like harvesting or fall and burn, aren't appropriate. This area will be treated with MSMA. The A stands for arsenic, a substance Josette Weir wants out of the forest.
All the research that have come up shows that arsenic is way more toxic than ever thought.
She's talking about recent research by UBC professor William Cullen, which says some forms of arsenic can damage human DNA.
I really thought this was enough news that I would alert pesticide branch, parks, who is going to use it in Twismere Park, Ministry of Forests, and for one thing, to my surprise, nobody knew about this, and I can't hold it against them because it's very recent.
The chemical has been used in the Maurice Forest District since 1987. Each tree is tagged with a warning after MSMA is applied through a groove carved into the bark near the base of individual infected trees.
The difference would be a single tree application versus a broader control method such as harvesting, which would be applied to large areas of infested timber.
Weir says there are dangers to animals, ecosystems, and people, but Ministry of Forest publications disagree.
My appeal is going to be centered on the fact that the provincial ministry do not have the ability to convey accurate information.
Inaccurate, she says, because it's outdated information. MSMA was first approved for use in Canada in 1970 and is up for review sometime before the year 2006. Officials at the Pesticide Management Branch say they took into account the toxicity of MSMA when approving it and setting out guidelines for its use. As for human contact, treated trees are not supposed to be milled, but as the infestation spreads, it becomes a possibility.
Well, there is a chance that sometimes previously treated MSMA trees were not designed for harvesting become captured in a harvesting block when the infestation gets bigger.
Powell says cutting MSMA out of the beetle management program would mean some trees wouldn't get treated.
It would severely curtail our ability to apply single tree control methods to our bark beetle problems.
There's a debate here between the safety of a pesticide and the fact that it's already been approved by the government. Decisions over pine beetle management were turned over to the province's Pine Beetle Task Force, which released its action plan earlier this month. Weir made a presentation to the task force. The pesticide debate wasn't included in its report.
What I want to say about the Beetle Task Force report is pathetic. It doesn't even mention the word MSMA.
We acknowledged her, listened to her, and didn't put a whole bunch of weight on what she had to say because it wasn't a big issue. It wasn't expressed anywhere else during our hearings.
She applied for a stay of the permit and lost, but Weir stands by her research and Dr. Cullen's.
I'm hoping to get the public alerted that there is an incredible experiment at stake in our backyard, which could have long-lasting effect. Dr. Collins said that it's like telling people that Agent Orange wasn't toxic before they used it.
As with any other product that would go through that process, we have to assume it's safe. If new information comes to light that would cause that approval to change, then we'd have to accept that also.
The appeal takes place in February 2002.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Good role models typically exhibit the following personality traits or qualities: self-awareness, positivity, humility, empathy, professionalism, and integrity. Let us return to the archives to highlight 3 Indigenous women.
First Nations women have always been valued by their communities for their meaningful contributions towards family and their culture. Lately, women have been expanding those roles with great success. Liza Haldane, who works at the Terrace Women's Centre, says it's encouraging.
I think it's really important that young women in particular get the message about First Nations women, and that there are women out there paving the roads for them in leadership roles and forcing change by taking non-traditional jobs or taking traditional jobs but doing something more. So we're not just...
One of those women who are doing something more is Valerie Morgan, a well-known First Nations artist in Kitwanga, excelling in fashion design and carving, even doing work for Walt Disney Productions. Morgan says it's important for her to combine her culture with her career, and that education has brightened her future. When she went to Saskatoon to get her fashion design papers, she also took up boxing, something you might not expect from a fashion designer, but Morgan says it's all part of her personality to take things full on, and getting her papers has secured her future.
I always talk to the youth and tell them how important it is to get their schooling and education, because without it, you're just going nowhere.
Brenda Wesley knows firsthand the importance of education. She's a teacher of First Nations and language culture in Terrace. Wesley's working on her master's and believes the education system needs to include the First Nations experiential way of teaching into the schools.
Studies show by the Ministry of Education that the gap with First Nations youth, it gets wider and wider in the higher grades. And so I thought, we need to get into the high schools. We need to let, these First Nations youth know that we care and that we're there for them. And, but also to let the Canadian children know that this knowledge is important and it's a great part of the acceptance.
Wesley at Skeena Jr. got to participate in a program last year introducing First Nations culture into the various classrooms with great success.
We went into drama, we went into culinary arts, we went into dance, all of the fine arts areas, and that's where we took in the First Nations content, and it was a wonderful experience. The students, to my knowledge, loved this experience, and there were kids from all walks of life, and they experienced this, and they can talk about it, and they can go on to their next class.
Wesley acknowledges the role of First Nations women in the family circle have given them a strong role, and for her, it was a system that made her feel empowered.
In our traditional way, it was my mother who spoke. It was like she was the head of the house. And my dad stood back gracefully and quietly. I couldn't go to him and say, Dad, she's wrong, because he would say, what your mother says goes. So it's the complete opposite of the Canadian way, where wait till your father gets home, we're going to deal with this. What she said, things went that way. And then he stood behind her and said, it will be that way.
Another woman who is a role model for other First Nations youth is Frances Stanley. Stanley is a native court worker for over 9 years and enjoys her chosen career in law and is studying to become a lawyer. Stanley says she knew from a young age law was to be her career choice, but it had its obstacles.
I guess I've never really heard anybody say you can't do this or you won't do that, because maybe there have been people who have said that, but I've never heard it, you know. But I remember years and years and years ago, you know, mentioning that I'd like to go to law school and be a lawyer, and at that point, that was such a huge thing. You know, and it was actually an embarrassment to mention it, because, you know, the thought was, and what was said to me at that time was that, that's only for the rich people, and, you know, you won't be able to do that, you know. So, but that always been in the back of my mind, and I'm working toward it.
Diane Collins knows all about paving the road for the younger generations. Collins, who is chief counselor of Kitsim-Kalem, is the first woman elected in that position. But there was a time when Collins wasn't always confident dealing with politics and government. But now she says you can't keep her away from it. She believes education has helped her become the person she is today.
It changes your life. I don't know how to measure it any better than that. But I would express wholeheartedly to anyone out there with any doubts or beliefs in themselves, they need to get out there and get an education, because it makes a difference. It makes a world of difference. Without that education, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't be who I am. Times have changed. We have a fair amount of women now who are looking at different, we're looking in different careers and different areas, and but I think we need to be more visible for the younger generations. And I think that's something that's lacking. We're often having to go out of our communities to find those role models.
Collins knows that it takes time for people to find their passion in life, and says it's important for youth to know it does exist.
The sun's going to rise every morning, even if it's cloudy. The sun is there. It's there every day. It is a natural truth. And when you find your natural truths, it will be just as clear and just as strong and just as powerful as knowing that that sun is going to rise every day. It's there for you.
Haldane hopes young First Nations youth know their voices are powerful and count in the present and in the years to come.
This province has been built on the backs of women, and so I think it's really valuable that the Aboriginal women, you know, also recognize that they play a very important role in the future.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Once common accounting practices were to use red ink to show negative amounts and black ink to show positive amounts. Black Friday, under this theory, is the beginning of a period when retailers would no longer be in the red. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives with Christmas shopping in 2001.
Christmas is 1 month away, but retailers and shoppers alike plan ahead for this busy and festive season.
It's a big part of our year. Certainly our summer with tourism is very strong, but January or November and December are two of the biggest months of the year, so it is a very important time.
But the question surrounding Christmas 2001 is, can and will it be the same this year despite the uncertain economic situation? And will the September 11th terrorist attacks and thousands of recent job cuts have an effect on your Christmas spending habits?
Of course, but I mean, the basics of Christmas are not so much buying gifts, right? So I think that just because of what happened on September 11th, things will change a bit. But the small things are the things that are going to matter this year, I think.
I think there's a possibility with the downturns in the economy, but I hope everybody tries to get out there and make Christmas as happy as they can.
Well, it's hard to say. I really feel Christmas is in someone's heart, so it just all depends on the person. Like, to me, Christmas is in my heart, so it's always the same.
And most retailers are singing the same tune as their customers.
After September 11th, actually, we didn't see a decrease in sales, and it's people, I think, are looking for something different. They're looking for maybe a bit of escapism. They just want to enjoy. The shopping's fun. It doesn't matter if it's a $1.98 candle or, you know, $200 feather bed. They're just coming out, and the shopping is enjoyment.
I think that merchants always have to remain optimistic, and I have seen really good sales so far. As you know, because we have so many people here that are from other areas, they do a lot of mailing Christmas gifts, and so it starts in early November and goes. And I have seen no signs of diminishing sales.
It's going to make it a little difficult. I'll spend more, but because I got to send it home, and it's going to cost me a phone call if I want to find out what they want. But other than that, Christmas will be the same, I guess.
Kitimat's been very stable. Kitimat's a big part of retail for Terrace. We are a service center that's been stronger than ever. Rupert, the shore workers, had a great year. The fishermen, especially the crab fishermen, had a great season. So there's money around, and certainly, you know, we're all concerned about the softwood agreement and also, you know, the repap situation. But so far, we've been very fortunate, and you know, I feel sorry for people that have been affected by that. But you know, and Christmas is coming, and people are going to buy something, and whether they buy something a little smaller, but they're still out there looking.
And what about the types of gifts being looked at? Some retailers say they have noticed an increase of the number of spiritual type gifts being purchased, and some say people are looking for more practical gifts. And many add they have planned ahead and somewhat differently for this year's Christmas season.
We have actually prepared a little bit for a different kind of season. We've brought in really nice gifts from $5 all the way on up to our usual high-range items. So you have everything to pick from. And we still do free gift wrapping, so we expect a really good Christmas.
Some people are looking for things like food that you can just enjoy, or they're looking for things for comfort, bedding, or things that are utilitarian, or they're just looking for just a nice gift. You know, beautiful French soaps or bath oils. And so there's a little bit of everybody coming in, and that's always been the case.
So the overall outlook when it comes to this year's Christmas is generally positive. Although some retailers admit to having concerns before the shopping season started, most say it's Christmas as usual, so you may actually get the #1 gift on your wish list.
I love Christmas and I love giving gifts.
People are in good spirits, so we're pleased that you know, that it is going as smooth as it is.
I'm going to try to spend as much as I can.
But they need someone to get on them. Slots, come on us. Last year, Caledonia raised more money for the Special Olympics through the milk run than any other school in the province. School's trying to duplicate that success this year and began today by holding the 3rd annual War on the Floor hockey game. The match pitted the students of Caledonia against the RCMP. Cal's won the match the last 2 years, so the Mounties were out to prove something. They proved they needed a little more practice as they got pummeled 9-3.
Well, try to clear. Yeah, it was really well played. Everybody worked hard, and the goaltending was great for the kids once again. He did an excellent job last year, and he did it again this year.
So not only do the Mounties lose face, they also have to wash the Caledonia bus next week.
Well, I'll tell you something, the RCMP made a statement this year. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.